Hi guys, today what I'm going to do is just give you a couple of very small beginner tips for animation. So what I have here is an animation of a squatting skeleton that I made. My father used to be the designated health and safety guy for a care home, and he wanted an animation that showed how to lift properly, basically bending your legs and not your back, and then it does a zoom in here to show how you can hurt your back, and then there's a close-up of the spine so that you can see the vertebrae, so you can see where the injuries might be happening, although really the injury would be more muscular. So if I press play here, you'll see it doesn't play every single frame, it just plays intermittent frames, not exactly keyframes, but just less frames. And the reason for that is so that if this is a complicated scene, it can get awfully jittery. So if I just show you here, this is the animation palette, and what you can see, these highlighted bits are what's known as keyframes. So when you're creating an animation, you take your figure and then you move it to a position you want to go to. So here I'll go to the next keyframe, if I can find the next keyframe. Where's keyframe here? Next keyframe here. So I've set this keyframe and I've got this start position, and what Poser will do is it will automatically animate all of the joints to get from that start position to this position, and so on through my animations here. You can see through the palette I've got sometimes the camera's animated, sometimes the skeleton's animated, sometimes the backdrop is animated, just to create, or the camera to zoom in on that spine, just to create that effect. But when you come to the kind of the end of your animating process, and you want to excuse me, you want to check the animation in detail, you might want to scrub through it like this. Scrubbing is when you grab the playhead and look at every frame. Or what you can do is you can go up to here to the animation setting and turn off this. By default, this skip frames option is turned on. Click that, and now when I press play, it'll be slower, but it'll now play every single frame. So you can get the impression, because sometimes what happens is you'll do a movement and the start position will be right, the end position will be right, but it'll do something weird and kinky in between, like kind of judder or go in some weird position. Sometimes that happens when you delete keyframes and then you haven't retimed it, or redone the animation. But anyway, that's not the purpose of this this tutorial. The tutorial is actually about rendering your animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the animation menu here, and we're going to do make movie. So the movie settings, you can choose the renderer here, and the render settings can be set here, or they can be set in the normal render settings accessed over here. But for this one, we're going to do a preview render, because I just want to show you something quickly. So I'm going to go to the preview renderer and just check through these settings, and these settings are actually all fine, but I could change them if I wanted to. Then I'm going to go back to movie settings. Now I can choose the path for my movie. So in this case, I've sent it to my D drive animation frames. Oops, a daisy, no I haven't. I've unselected that, idiot. Right, and I'm going to do lifting skeleton good. It's just picked up the name of the file. I'm just going to call that lifting skeleton. I renamed the file after whatever, I can't remember now. Anyway, so there's the name of the file, and the the format, the video format, is going to be here. So I'm going to choose MP4 because I know that's great for uploading to YouTube or for quick play, and it's a small file size. I'm going to leave that on full size. So this is set to a frame size of 720 by 576, which was UK PAL setting before everything went HD, and setting that for high quality. Now this is the thing that you should always switch off, this option here, delete frames after encoding. So what's going to happen is this option here, auto make movie, is going to this was one of the great improvements that they did in Poser 12, I think it was, where they rendered all animations as a series of frames as opposed to as a video with no frames. And so what it does is it renders a series of still frames, and then it auto makes the movie here, which you have switched on by default. But this annoying thing here deletes the frames after encoding. And that's a bad idea in my opinion. This should be turned off by default. So if I turn this off now and then went up into preferences and save scene settings, that would make sure that was off every time I came into Poser. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm using the preview renderer, which is basically the OpenGL render that we work in anytime we're in the main screen. And assuming I've set everything properly, so there's the file name, there's the file format, there's the file quality. I'm in preview, so really a bit pointless doing quality, but it will get much larger file size by setting that up, but with a preview render, the quality is going to be low anyway. And auto make movie, and then I'm just going to render that. Hopefully this is the quickest possible way of doing it. So what was it, 300 frames? So it's rendering at 5 frames a second there, looking at it. Okay, so I'm just going to check out now, and I'll come back when that's at 300 frames. Okay, so that's rendered the 300 frames. It's now making a movie from the frames, and it's done an animation. It's actually off the screen, but here we are. I'm using K-Lite Player, which I think is an excellent media player, and I've got it set to loop. So you can see now the rendered animation. It's what's it, 30 frames a second, 25 because I set it to PAL speed, I think. So if I just stop that, just go in, let me just check my animation speed. I can't remember what animation speed I did. Oh no, I left it to 30 frames a second, I guess, which is NTSC American speed, but it really isn't going to matter because I then encoded that at 25 frames a second in Adobe Premiere to put some text over. But here's the thing, if I go back to my folder now, you'll see there's a list of individual frames here, 300 frames, and it's automatically created this lifting skeleton. I could have turned it off so that it didn't automatically create them. Let me just go in here. I could have turned this so that it didn't auto make the movie. That's just your personal choice, as is the play movie after encoding. But why is it important that we turn off this delete frames? Well, there's two reasons. One, you might need frames from the footage. So supposing you're uploading a YouTube and you want a frame to use as a thumbnail. Now I've got a whole set of frames there, I can choose the best frame. But far more importantly, and this is the real genius of the way that Bondware has done this, supposing I now want to change, oops, a daisy, supposing I now want to change my keyframes. So I go to here and I drag some of these keyframes around, or even make significant changes, completely change the type of the animation for frames 150 to 170. I don't want to have to render the entire animation just to fix that thing. So what I can do is I can go in here, I can take this this start and end, so I said 150 to 170, and I can render just those frames. And then I'll have the changed frames, but not all of the others, and I haven't wasted time re-rendering the entire image. And then what I can do is I can then go encode existing images, and that will then render everything in that folder back to that format. And I've got a whole new animation, but only had to render 20 frames. So this option, absolutely vital. Hope you find that useful, guys, and I will speak to you again soon.